Hey, welcome. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use a voice AI agent to book appointments for a customer or maybe for yourself in a situation where there are multiple calendars to choose from. Now, I've made videos in the past where I show you how to use a voice AI agent to book appointments on a single calendar, but multiple calendars is a recurring theme, a recurring question that comes up in my community. I see it online, I see it in the comments, and there are multiple ways to solve it. I'm going to show you one in this video. This is going to be a technical video. I'm going to show you how to do it from A to Z. I'll show you how I solved that problem. You may solve that problem differently, and if you did, go ahead and comment down below. But I just wanted to share with you how I solved it. So I'm going to go over system prompt, custom functions, and the end-to-end workflow that attaches this. Now, disclaimer, I am going to be using RetellAI here. That's just the voice AI platform that I choose to use. You can build this in Vapi or any of the other voice AI platforms that support custom functionality. I would recommend, even if you're not using RetellAI and you're a Vapi user, still watch this because the fundamentals are still going to apply and you're going to be able to apply this in your use case. Now, GoHighLevel alone, I am going to use GoHighLevel here. That is where my calendars are hosted, but I am not using GoHighLevel's voice AI for this purpose. It is not capable at the time of recording of booking on multiple calendars. I think it's something that they will do in the future. But for now, we're going to stick with what we need to make this work. And let's see. So before we get started, who's this for? So in this case, we're going to use a med spa as an example. So a med spa may have multiple providers. Maybe they have multiple services, an estheticians, injectors, providers, urgent appointments, general consultations, stuff like that. Those are all scenarios where maybe there's a different calendar for those services, and we need to be able to make an intelligent decision, or our AI agent needs to be able to make an informed decision to book on the correct calendar. Dentists, attorneys, food trucks, restaurants, franchises, tattoo shops, martial arts, dance studios, just a bunch of situations where a single calendar isn't enough. And so that's who this is for. And how we'll do this, we'll use a system to make the calendar ID, essentially the identification for the calendar, a variable, meaning that it's not the same every time, but it might be one of 5 or one of 6. And we need to make sure that the AI agent can make that decision reliably. I'm going to show you some tricks to do that. And then we're going to curate a system prompt to help define those scenarios in which those decisions need to be made. This system prompt isn't a one-size-fits-all, but I'll give it to you here, and then you can go ahead and modify it for your use case. We're going to modify functions parameters. So if that doesn't make any sense, that's technical. We're going to be sending information from RetellAI to N8N and then ultimately to GoHighLevel. But we need to make sure that we're sending the right information in the right spot every single time from Retell to N8N so we can make the right decisions programmatically, automatically. It'll make more sense when I show you. And then we're going to build the N8N logic and workflow together and then plug it into our framework and test it. Without further ado, let's just go ahead. I'm going to hop in here. So I have a voice AI agent built. Okay. There's nothing crazy in this voice AI agent, but I am going to point out a few key things that are important to you or maybe are relevant to you. And as a reminder, this is an example. Maybe you don't run a med spa, or you don't serve bulk clients, but apply the fundamentals in this video to your use case. So first and foremost, what we're going to focus on here is the system prompt or the main prompt on the left-hand side here. And I'm going to go through this line by line, essentially. But up here is the current time. This is an important component of any system prompt. If the AI doesn't know what the current time is, when the caller says something like tomorrow at 2 p.m., AI has nothing to relate it to, and it'll just come up with a random date and a random time zone. It's just not good at that. So you have to give it the current time. These little curly braces here is a standard variable inside of RetellAI that will insert the current time at the time of the call so that the AI knows to relate it. Has some relational time reference. So here we just have simple prompt here. This isn't an entire agent. We're just focusing on the appointment booking. So I just have a simple instruction here. Your job is to book a user on an appointment. And then here is the important part. Okay. This is how we are defining to the voice AI agent how the calendar selection is going to happen. And the way I chose to approach this is by having the AI agent here in Retell select the category. The AI agent is the one speaking to the user, so it is going to be the one best suited to understand the context of the conversation and choose an appropriate category. Notice I didn't say calendar ID, but a category in order for us to take that information and make the right decision inside of N8N. And the reason we do that here in the system prompt in the form of categories is because in testing, the calendar ID, if I say, hey, if somebody starts talking about injections, choose calendar ID ABC123XYZ456, the AI agent in testing just doesn't do a good job at reliably selecting that. It did substantially better whenever I chose a category like Ashley Injector or Melissa Injector or Sophia Esthetician. It will do better understanding that, and so that's why I went with this approach. So notice in here we say, hey, always call, get open slots before booking an appointment. That's just standard in our operations. Here are the category rules. Choose one category for every booking. Here are the categories: Ashley Injector, Melissa Injector, Sophia Esthetician, Jordan Laser Tech, Consultation General, and Urgent Same Day. Notice I have this camel casing, lowercase, uppercase. That's going to become important here in a little bit. It's not necessarily super important in the system prompt, but we're going to become consistent throughout. But this is just the first time you seeing that. I wanted to point that out because it is important later on. Category selection. Here's some more rules. If a caller needs a same day or urgent help, this is your category, urgent same day. If the caller requests Ashley, here's your category, Ashley, so on and so forth. And furthermore, we have some more obscure or nuanced situations. For facials, microneedling, peels, hydrofacial, or skincare, Sophia Esthetician. For laser hair removal, IPL, or any laser services, Jordan Laser Tech. If a caller is unsure or wants recommendations, send them to the Consultation General calendar. And never invent categories. And so here's the workflow, and you can add to this, okay? You can add like maybe prioritization or randomization of the calendar selections. Let's say here we have 2 injectors, so maybe we want to prioritize Ashley over Melissa if it's a male or a female. You get what I'm saying here. You can add to this. Here's the workflow. Decide the correct category and keep it fixed. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Call get open slots first using that category, the user's name, and the request appointment in ISO 86001 format. That's just a format in which we send the time to N8N. After receiving availability, call book appointment with the same category and the final chosen appointment time. So we always want to make sure that get open slots and book appointment use the same category, because if they got open slots for, let's say, Sophia Esthetician, and then they tried to book an appointment on Ashley Injectors without checking open slots, we're trying to prevent that shift or that change. Never change or switch categories between get open slots and its corresponding book appointment call, okay? We're putting emphasis on that. Now, here, if we come into the function call, we have 3 functions. End call is pretty standard. We're not going to worry about the end call function, but book appointment and get open slots. Let's start with get open slots. If I pop this open, we're going to come in here and change this here in a second. This is just what I use for testing. But starting at the top, we named it Get Open Slots. And notice this is camel case, lowercase g, uppercase O, uppercase S. That's important. And then we have the description, query the calendar for open slots or availability, pretty standard. But what's important here is the parameters. So the parameters, this is standard if you watch any of my appointment booking videos, but the parameters are information that we're going to send over to N8N. And the reason why we define them this way, this is called JSON schema. The reason we define this data structured this way is so that we know what to expect, or N8N knows what to expect on the other side, and we can build a workflow that knows how to work with this structured data. We know that the requested appointment is always going to be in the same place, in the same format. We know that we're also going to get a name, maybe, if we ask for it, and a category. And so this is what the parameters are for. I'm going to scroll through this here so you can see how this is built. I use ChatGPT to help me build this JSON schema. For those of you who are in the community, you'll be able to download this. I will take this agent and provide you the JSON so you can just import it. It should be pretty simple, but I'm going to scroll down here. I literally just go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I need JSON schema for this get open slots function. Here's what I need to send over to N8N, and I have it create it for me. Now, one of the important parameters to annotate here is category. So we talked about category a little bit in the system prompt, but here is the appointment category selected based on the conversation. That is the description. Now, notice I didn't explain all the categories here in the description. And the reason we did that is because AI is not necessarily looking at the parameter description here to tell it how to make decisions or do any sort of reasoning. That happens in the system prompt, and that's why we put the majority of that information inside of the system prompt and not here in the description. But what we did do in here is we made this an field, and this enum field essentially tells RetellAI, hey, pick one of these, okay? Out of this selection, you need to pick one of these categories and don't make anything up. And it won't make anything up because this is int field. Think about on a test, you got 4 A, B, C, and D, and you have to pick one. And so if you can't pick E because E is not an option. So that's what this is telling the AI to do. Here we have the required The required information, we have name, requested appointment, execution message. This is a new thing that RetellAI started doing. If we check this box, speak during execution, and this is just what the voice AI agent says as it's executing this function, it adds it into the parameters for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe that's useful, maybe that's not. But here we go. Now, book appointments. So get open slots is doing exactly that. It's querying the calendar for open slots, and then book appointments is actually trying to book the appointment. And I actually noticed here that I didn't put a description, which I don't like doing. So I'll add one here, used to book appointments on the calendar. And I'm going to change this here in a second, but let's come over here and review the parameters. They are very similar to the get open slots. We have name, requested appointment, execution message, which automatically got put in there, and then the category. Okay, so same information that's being sent over for that. One of them gets the open slots, and one of them actually books the appointment on the calendar. Now, everything else in here is the same. I didn't make any changes. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a workflow, and this workflow is going to be triggered by a webhook call. So if I come over here and I add a trigger on webhook call, I'm going to change my HTTP method to post and then respond using respond to webhook node. And I'm going to just copy this test URL and replace the URL that's located in these functions so that when these functions are called, they're actually called using the webhook that we just configured. So let's see, this is for book appointment. And then the next one will be for get open slots. I think we already did that one, but I'll do it one more time for good measure. Cool. So now anytime these function calls are called, it should send a message over here. Now, what I'm going to do is actually add an action here, which is respond to webhook, just so that we have some response. We'll change that here in a little bit. And respond using, yep, cool. All right. So now we have the basis of our N8N workflow configured, but I need some data to work with. And so in order to get some data here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to simulate a call by chatting with the RetellAI agent in order to send a message to this webhook so that we can build the rest of the workflow. So I'm going to click executing workflow here, and you should see it says waiting for trigger event. That means we're listening for a trigger event. So if I come in here to test chat, I'm going to start a manual chat and say, hey, I need to book an appointment for a laser tech. Cool. And it says, give me a moment while I check calendars. And then it says, get open slots. Okay. So it sent the message over. And if I come over here, let's see if it actually sent it. Requested appointment. Give me a moment while I check the calendar. Tool result is nothing. Now, I wonder why. Let me just make sure. It could be frozen here. I'm going to refresh here because it looks like it hit something and then it responded. Sometimes N8N wigs out on me. Okay, I'm going to listen for a test event one more time and then try to replay this conversation. Okay, great. There it is. I'm not sure why that happened, but sometimes it does. So I'm going to leave that in here. Okay, so we got this information. There's really not much useful information in here except for the fact that we do have a category. We do have a requested time slot, which is like midnight today. And that'll make more sense here in a second why we do that. But we're going to work off this webhook. I'm just going to pin it right over here so that we can start working on making this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a switch node, okay? And what the switch node does is we're going to evaluate a certain field that came in, which is the category field, and we're going to split the route of the workflow based on that category field because we have to make that calendar ID a variable. And so what I mean by calendar ID, give me one second. All right, so here's what I mean by calendar ID. I'm here in my GoHighLevel sub account where my calendars are hosted. I'm going to go ahead and click on calendar settings, and I have the calendars listed here. All right, so I have my calendar IDs listed here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individual calendars, and each of them have a unique calendar ID. And so we're going to split out the category and make sure we assign the correct calendar ID. So if I come in here to my workflows, I'm going to put this switch node in here. And what I'm going to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you see we have this category. That's what we're going to evaluate today. So I'm going to drag and drop this category up on the top section, which will make this turn green. And we're essentially looking, let me add that route. I just deleted it by mistake. we're looking for this category to match one of the categories that we have explained here inside of our system prompt. So first one we have is Ashley Injector. So I'm just going to copy and paste that because casing matters here. This is much like your password. If the casing is incorrect, if you have an uppercase where there should have been a lowercase, it's never going to match this rule. This is a computer. The computer's looking for literals here. It needs to match this rule. So I'll just go ahead and select that. And then I'm going to add another routing rule. So that's the first one. And I can come up here and copy this little field that we're evaluating, come back in here and check for Melissa, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to continue to do this for the rest of them. I have another workflow here that I'm just going to copy here, okay? So just so that you don't have to watch paint dry, I'm going to copy it. I wanted you to see a few of them so you can get the idea. But if I come over here and pop this open, here is the configured switch node. And you see, I didn't change anything. We have the categories for the injector. We have the categories for Melissa. We have the categories for Sophia, Jordan, consultation general, urgent same day. And then we just renamed the output so that these little lines show the exact output. Cool. So now when something comes in, like if we execute this workflow with the pin data, we could see that Jordan LaserTech is the one who got sent over. And the reason Jordan LaserTech got sent over is because I said I needed a LaserTech, right? And there was only one LaserTech. And so that's why Jordan LaserTech is there. I'm not sure why my N8N is wigging out today. It looks like connection's lost. Okay, we'll refresh that here in a second. Let me just save and then refresh. Now what we need to do next is actually set the calendar IDs for these specific paths. And for that, I'll show you exactly how we do that. I'm just going to copy them one by one so you could see it from my notes here. But if you don't know how to add a set node, you would essentially come up here, add, and then you would just search set node and it'll say edit fields set. And that's what we're modifying here. So we're essentially setting the calendar ID for each of these categories. So let me go ahead and delete this and pop this open so you can see. So we have Ashley Injector, and here is Ashley's calendar ID ending in FSM. If I come into GoHighLevel, I see ending in FSM. That's Ashley's calendar ID, which is perfect. That's what we wanted. And so I just need to connect the dots here. So let me move that up here and create room for the rest. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just copy the rest of them so that we can speed this up. Essentially, all I'm doing, if I pop into each one of these, Melissa Injector with their calendar ID, I have Sophia's with the calendar ID, I have General Console with the calendar ID, you get the point. I'm setting the calendar ID for the specific category that got sent to us from RetellAI, and then I just need to connect these dots so that we can make sure that the correct calendar ID is being set for the right category. Okay, now, next thing we need to do is confusing, and there's multiple ways to do this. You can use a merge field, but in this case, I'm going to use a set field. Now, we set the calendar ID individually for the individual services, but we need a way to reach back to that calendar ID and refer to it. It needs to be in the same place every time. Right now, if we build this entire workflow off of the Jordan LaserTech's calendar ID, and then we go and use that in subsequent actions, you'll see that here in a second because we're going to use this calendar ID as a variable inside some of the other API calls. If we use like Jordan's, let's say, when Melissa gets called, there's going to be nothing there for Jordan, and so it's not going to make sense. So we're going to use a single set node in order to set the calendar ID for all of them so we know what node to reach back to. It sounds confusing, but watch me do it. I'm actually not going to copy from my notes here. I'm going to search for the set node, and then I'm going to name this one set variables because we'll set multiple variables here. Let me reference my notes, but there's a few variables we're going to set, and one of them is calendar ID. And then another variable we're going to set is the location ID. That's actually going to be fixed, so we can just set that right now. So that's the location ID of my sub account. If I come over here to my sub account and click on the business profile, my location ID will be present right in there. So let's see if I can get that to pull up while we wait. I already know mine, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste it here. But just in case you don't know yours, I want to show you that. And then the next thing we're going to pull in is the contact ID. And that may be present or that may be empty. That's okay. We account for that later on. But the reason we have that here, if let's say we triggered an outbound call, we already know the contact ID. And so we can provide it right in here, and then it will make the rest of the workflow a little bit easier. But if I come over here, that's taking a while to load. That's fine. Its location ID is also in your URL bar. But okay, I'm going to leave this empty for right now. And what I want to do is drag this over here, and I'm going to drag and drop all these lines, and then we're going to execute a test workflow so that we actually have some data to push into this set variables. And I'm going to show you how we execute this predictably every single time. So I really wish N8N wasn't messing up for me right now. It looks like we're having issues executing the workflow. I'm probably going to have to refresh again. Beauties of self-hosting N8N. I might have to refresh or reboot this entire instance in order for it to stop doing that, but it's okay. We're going to work through it. All right, so here it is. We refreshed it. I'm going to go ahead and execute the workflow one more time. And that it went all the way through and it set the calendar ID. This was actually general console, which is not the order we wanted it in. Problem is I copied and pasted it. So I actually wanted Jordan's to be set here. So let's go ahead and make sure everything is routed precisely. So we have Ashley injector, that's right. We have Melissa injector, that's right. We have Sophia, that's right. Jordan laser tech, it looks like that is swapped. So I'm just going to delete these connections and swap these two. And actually connect Jordan to where Jordan's supposed to be, and general consultation, and then urgent is good. So let's go ahead and save that, and let me run this one more time. All right, cool. So it actually went all the way through, and now in here, even though that's spinning, we have some data to work with. And if we come over here to Jordan's, you should see that we have a calendar ID here. And so we need to fill this. But if I just drag and drop this, you're going to see Jordan Laser Tech is right here. And that's not quite what we want. We want whatever comes out of any of these nodes, we want that to be what's set in there. And so for that, we can use this JSON variable. So let me just go ahead and delete this. We can do double squiggly brackets, $ JSON. You see it auto-populates here. And then we press period. Values, so the value that comes out of that, and then now you see an array down here with the actual calendar ID, but I'm going to do a open square bracket and a close square bracket, and in between I'm going to say 0, so that is the index or the position where that value is. That's very technical, but just know that if you do it this way every time, it is going to work unless you have like multiple values being set in that previous node. But now anytime any of these get set, and then we execute this set variables action, you're going to fill it in with the correct calendar ID. So that's exactly what we want. So in another test, we can call Sophia's, and Sophia's calendar ID should be set in here. And this is valuable because now in future nodes, all we're going to do is refer to this set variables node, and we'll be able to access the calendar ID predictable every single time because it's always going to be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and click save here, and I will refresh here in a second, but I do want to build out the rest of the workflow. Now, let me just refresh. Awesome. So for those of you who are not familiar with one of my previous appointment booking workflows, I'll link something down in the description to show you because I'm going to go fast. I'm going to copy some actions from previous workflows just so that we can speed up the process, because I don't want this main thing to be about building an appointment booking workflow. I've covered that in great detail in previous videos and in my Voice AI course. But what I wanted to show you is how we can modify it in order to work with multiple calendars. But I am going to go through these nodes really quickly just to show you. So you notice here we have another switch node, and we used that switch node earlier to set the correct calendar ID, but we're going to use a switch node again to switch between the different functions. So we're using the same webhook to trigger this workflow, but we call it under two different circumstances. One is to get open slots and one is to book appointment. So this switch node is evaluating that body name in order to determine, is this a get open slots, case sensitive, or is this a book appointment, case sensitive again. Depending on which one it is, we will route it. So if I go ahead and execute this workflow one more time, because this was a get open slots call, because I told it you need to get open slots before you book an appointment, it should come up this way. And just to explain a little bit more, we set the start date, which is the requested appointment. We add a day, and then we set the end date, which is 24 hours prior. And we do this in a very specific format that's specific to GoHighLevel because it wants it in this little Unix timestamp or epoch time in milliseconds. And so we use these set date nodes or modified date nodes in order to do that. And then we actually call the API call, which is get open slots. Very interesting here. You see set variables, calendar ID. I'm going to show you how this populates here in a second. Let's go ahead and execute this workflow. Let me zoom out so you can see the whole execution. Remember, we have pin data here. And so, of course, this is not going to allow me to do it live. It's going to want me to refresh one more time. Very frustrating. All right, I'm going to go ahead and execute it now, and we should see it go through its steps. So you notice it came all the way through. It set Jordan's calendar ID, and then it went up just as we expected to get open slots. Now let me show you what happens. In this get open slots API call now has a variable in place for the calendar ID. This is supposed to be a fixed calendar ID for the specific calendar, but that's being filled with Jordan's calendar ID because we had that as a variable. And here's what I told you about this set variables JSON calendar ID. It's always going to be the same. So we can have it here and we can confide in it and know that it's reliably going to fill in with the correct calendar ID. And if you come down here, that we have these dates in this weird format, those were the nodes that I just explained on why we had it that way, and that we actually got open slots returned. So that's exactly what we wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out of that. Here, all we're doing is we're determining whether we got open slots or we didn't get open slots, because if we didn't get open slots, then it would come and tell our AI agent, hey, there was no open slots. Go ahead and try another time. But because we did, we send the open slots over to the RetellAI agents. What I'm going to do is come back over here and I'm going to unpin the data by pressing P. I'm going to save, and then we're going to listen for test events one more time. And hopefully I don't have to refresh again, but I'm going to restart this conversation. And hopefully you see if the tool result here, we didn't get anything back. This time we should actually get open slots back. So let me replay this chat. Awesome. So if you come over here, you see the response is different now, and it's actually given some open slots. If I come here to tool result, you should see that we have open slots this time, which is exactly what you wanted. And you see the execution went on as we expected. Now, in the next situation, I'm actually going to book an appointment. So I'm going to listen one more time for test events, and I'm going to come in here and say, can you book the 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. please. And this should actually go and try to book the appointment. Now, I don't necessarily expect this to pass. Cool. Looks like needs contact details. Very good. That's what I wanted to happen. If we come over here, I'm going to explain why that didn't quite work. Let's see. If I come over here to book appointment and we see, yeah, invalid contact details. And we have this error because there's probably some missing information. It does exist, but it is empty. So we actually need to determine if the contact ID is empty. Let's see what happens when we execute that step. The contact ID is empty. Okay, cool. That's the behavior we want. Okay, cool. So if the contact ID is empty, then we need to search for contacts. So the first thing we're doing is determining if we know the contact ID. If we do, we're just going to go ahead and book the appointment. If we don't, we're going to search for the contact by the phone number. And the phone number is not actually present right now because we're using the chat right here, which doesn't have a phone number associated with it. That's okay. I'm going to send over a message here in a second that does actually have the phone number associated with it so we can get this right. But it's going to search for the contact by the phone number that we called from. And if you notice here, that's not present because we're not actually calling from a phone number right now. But if we come over here, it should actually see if it's present. If it's not, we'll create the contact and then go on to book the appointment. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tie this to a phone number, and then we're going to make a phone call. That way we can have a phone number associated with, we can have a phone number associated with this. So let me go ahead and pop open a demo account here and make this phone call. Hello?
Hello. How can I help you today? Are
Yeah.
you looking to book an appointment or do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm looking to book an appointment for a laser tech.
Great. I can help you book an appointment with our laser tech. Could you please provide your name and let me know your preferred date and time for the appointment?
Justin Melendez, and the next available time is fine.
Let me check the next available appointment with our laser tech for you. Your appointment with our laser tech is confirmed for tomorrow, November 26th at 8 a.m. If you need...
All right, cool. So it actually went through, it checked the open slots, and it booked the appointment. If you wanted there to be a pause there, you would prompt that in the system prompt. Now, this is just sitting here spinning. I think that's just my version of N8N that's doing what it's doing right now. I'm not very proud of it, but I'm going to go ahead and pin that data, and I'm going to refresh this. But I'm going to come in here and check if that appointment was actually created in my calendar, which I believe it was. And if you come over here, Justin Melendez for 8 a.m., that's exactly what we wanted to happen. And if I come over here, and let me refresh this, we should see this execution and how it actually played out. Okay, if I come over here to executions, I should see historic executions. And here's the last execution. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that to the editor so that we can see exactly what went down. The book appointment came in. We asked for laser tech, came over here was a book appointment. So the contact ID was empty here because it wasn't an outbound call. We just called inbound. We didn't know the contact ID yet. And then we searched the contacts. We didn't find a contact. It came up empty. And because it came up empty, it went down this branch. And then we created the contact, which returned a contact ID. We set that contact ID right here in this set field, set the contact ID, and then we booked the appointment using that contact ID. So pretty cool. It came over here and it actually confirmed it and it's good to go. So it worked. Now I'm going to call back again just so that we can see it work. I'm going to ask for, let's see, an injector. I'm going to say we need lip injections this time and see if it actually goes through the lip injection or the Ashley's calendar or Melissa's calendar. So let's go ahead and try that one more time. Hello?
Hi there. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I'm looking to book an appointment. I need some fillers.
Great. I can help you book an appointment for fillers. Do you have a preferred injector, Ashley or Melissa, or would you like the next available option? Also, do you have a specific date and time in mind?
I like Ashley's work, so let's look for Ashley. Do you have anything tomorrow at 2 p.m.?
Let me check Ashley's availability for tomorrow at 2 p.m. for your filler appointment. It looks like I'm having trouble accessing Ashley's schedule at the moment.
Okay, so the reason that happened is because I have pinned data here, and because my N8N is acting a fool right now, it's not actually showing me that execution. So I'm going to unpin that data, and then I'm going to listen again, and we're going to call that again. But bear with me for a second. So let me just click on the webhook and unpin it. Now we're going to execute this workflow, so we should be listening. I'm going to go ahead and make that call one more time. Hello?
Hi there. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I actually need to book
or do you have any questions?
I need to book an appointment for injections.
Absolutely. Great. Which injector would you like to see, Ashley or Melissa? Or do you have no preference? Also, do you have a specific date and time in mind for your appointment?
I'll do Ashley. And as soon as you have, maybe do you have something for tomorrow at 2?
Let me check Ashley's availability for tomorrow at 2 p.m. for you. Booking you with Ashley for injections tomorrow at 2 p.m.
All right, cool. So it went over there. You see here, it selected Ashley. That call is rough because we didn't prompt it at all. We just gave it a base prompt. But if you wanted it to stop interrupting and doing all that stuff, you would prompt that in, you would modify the settings. But here, we're just focused on booking with multiple calendars. So you see that we selected Ashley. It did a good job. It knew that Ashley and Melissa were the injectors because we defined that in our prompt, and it actually went through and booked the appointment. So that's working exactly as we expected. Again, this is one way to solve the problem. This is one way I would solve this problem. I think that this could reliably handle a handful of calendars, probably anywhere between 2 to 15 calendars, I would say. Anything beyond that, you may want to get a little bit more complex, maybe using a knowledge base or a RAG database that has more verbose instructions on how to select a calendar. But hopefully you found this helpful, and thank you for bearing with me with the technical issues and troubleshooting. If this concept is brand new to you, this was probably a little bit advanced. You should probably go back and watch some of my other videos on how to book appointments with voice AI agents. I think that would be helpful. Till next time, see you in the next video. Peace.